In the heart of Africa, amidst whispers carried on the savannah winds, a legend was born, a story not of kings or warriors, but of a voice that could see beyond the veil of time. They called her the Forgotten Oracle. This is her story. From the cradle of an ancient village, a child unlike any other emerged. They say the sky wept tears of gold the day she was born, and that the elders saw a flicker of the old magic in her eyes. She grew up not with toys, but with the earth under her fingernails and the secrets of the ancestors in her ears. While other children chased butterflies, she would sit for hours, listening to the rustle of leaves, tracing patterns in the dust that only she could understand. Her world was one of signs and symbols, a language written in the flight of birds and the cracks in sun-baked earth. Her mother, a weaver of stories and fabrics, noticed the girl's quiet intensity. She saw how animals would fall silent in her presence, how the very air seemed to hum with an unseen energy when she spoke. It was a power that was both beautiful and terrifying, a gift from the spirits that would set her on a path few could walk. The first whispers of her visions began as ripples in the calm waters of village life. It started with small things, a warning about a coming storm that saved the harvest, a premonition of a dried-up well that sent the men digging in a new, life-saving location. At first, they called it intuition, a woman's luck. But soon, the predictions grew larger, more specific, more unsettling. We found fragments of old journals, dusty ledgers from colonial outposts that speak of a young woman with unsettling clarity. One entry describes her foretelling a blight on the crops, weeks before the first leaf withered. She spoke of a sickness that would travel on the river, urging the village to boil their water. Her words were recorded, noted as local folklore, and then dismissed. The world outside her small community was not ready to listen to a voice like hers. But within her village, a quiet respect began to grow. They saw her not as a fortune teller, but as a guardian, a conduit for the wisdom of the land itself. As her power grew, so did the weight of her visions. They were no longer just about the village. They stretched across borders, across oceans. We see it in the archived texts, sketches of maps where she'd point a finger to a distant land and speak of fire and upheaval. She saw conflict brewing between nations, economic collapses that would ripple across the globe. She warned of leaders who would rise on promises of gold but deliver only dust. She spoke of these things plainly, not with the fire of a preacher, but with the quiet sorrow of someone who has already seen the tragedy unfold. She tried to warn them. Delegates, traders, officials who passed through, she would offer them her visions as a gift, a chance to avert disaster. But they saw only a village girl in traditional dress. Her words lost in translation, her warnings dismissed as the superstitious ramblings of an uneducated native. The more she spoke, the more they turned away, their ears deaf to the drums of a coming storm. The silence that met her warnings was perhaps the most deafening sound of all. And then it happened, exactly as she had foreseen. The archives don't lie. Newsreels from the era show the chaos she described. Headlines scream of market crashes. Photographs capture the famines. Grainy footage reveals the smoke of distant conflicts. The blight she warned of became a plague on the crops. The sickness she saw on the river spread through the region. The political upheaval she predicted toppled governments. Her words, once dismissed as folklore, became a chilling echo of reality. Each event was a terrible testament to her ignored wisdom. The world, caught in the throes of its own making, was oblivious to the quiet seer who had offered them a map through the chaos. For her village, it was a confirmation of her sacred gift. For the outside world, it was a series of unconnected tragedies. Nobody connected the dots. Nobody remembered the woman with the beads and the quiet, knowing eyes. Years passed. The world moved on, healed its wounds, and promptly forgot the lessons. We journeyed back to find her, to understand the source of this incredible power. We didn't find a grand temple or a shrine adorned with gold. We found her where she had always been, by a simple fire, the smoke curling into the twilight sky. She was older now, the lines on her face telling stories deeper than any book. The fire in her eyes had softened into a gentle, knowing embers. She was calm, serene, at peace with the world that had refused her wisdom. She no longer spoke of the future. She spoke of roots, of healing, of listening to the earth. She taught that the future is not a fixed point to be feared, but a river whose course can be changed if one is willing to listen to the currents. Her power was not in seeing destruction, but in her unwavering connection to the source of life itself. She had accepted her role, not as a warner of doom, but as a keeper of a timeless truth. As our journey came to an end, we prepared to leave, our cameras packed, our notebooks full. We felt a sense of peace. Believing her story was one of quiet retirement, of wisdom passed on. On the final night, we filmed her one last time, sitting by the dying fire under a blanket of stars. We asked her one final question. Is it over? Are the visions gone? She turned to us slowly, and for the first time, a shadow crossed her calm expression. She looked directly into the camera, her eyes piercing through the lens, through time itself. She didn't say a word. She simply raised a hand and pointed, not at a map, but towards the horizon, towards our world. Then she stood, and with a quiet grace, turned and walked away from the firelight, her form melting back into the deep, consuming darkness from which she came. A shiver ran down our spines as we understood. Her silence was the most terrifying prediction of all. The story wasn't over. A new chapter was just beginning. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the forgotten corners of history. If stories like this captivate you, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. There are many more legends waiting to be unearthed. Until next time, keep questioning and keep listening to the whispers.